What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 365 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Earth 2 Society, Life After Death. This is Volume 4 of Earth 2 Society, which was a spin-off series of the original Earth 2 series and Earth 2 Worlds End. This is written by Dan Abnett with art by Bruno Redondo and Vincent Cifuentes. And this volume picks up right where Volume 3 left off, where the Ultra Humanite and then also Fury were both trying to recreate their lost world. The Ultra Humanite, he was trying to recreate the now lost Earth 2, but with him in a position of power, and then the Fury, Wonder Woman and Steppenwolf's daughter, she is trying to do the same thing to prevent the Ultra Humanite from doing that. And this volume, it feels like they're going in this direction basically because it's easy. We spend a lot of time in Volume 3 with Fury talking about how doing this would be really risky and really dangerous, and it could not only not work, but also destroy their husk of a planet that they were currently living on. And then this happens, and nothing dangerous actually occurs. It basically works perfectly, except that the Ultra Humanite is somehow in charge of this planet whenever the characters from Earth 2 get there. I don't understand how this works. I don't understand how the Ultra Humanite gets there before they do. I don't understand why he's wearing Lex Luthor's armor, or why he is somehow in charge whenever they get there. None of that makes any sense to me. It's not really explained here, basically because this is a plot MacGuffin that only exists to get the plot from point A to point B. They didn't actually think it out very well. In fact, we were told that this Pandora's Box thing was mystical, but then the Ultra Humanite, he's a science guy. You would think that he would have a little bit of trouble with a mystical artifact like this, but he seems to take to it just fine, and somehow he is able to turn himself sort of into a god, not with godlike powers, but at least to the point where he is in control of how this reality is shaped. For example, when the heroes get on this planet, there are no other heroes on this world except for one, so it's really weird that the Ultra Humanite makes it so that there are no other superheroes on this world except for a new version of Citizen Steel, or Captain Steel, whatever he's called. He's here, and then also the Sandmen, they now work for the Ultra Humanite. So it's weird that the Ultra Humanite wants a world that he can control and won't have any superheroes in it, and for the most part he succeeds, but then there's one other superhero there. It's a little weird how that works out. You would think that he would have just said, nope, no superheroes at all. But anyway, our characters get here, and they spend a few issues in this weird limbo world that is kind of shaped like the old world that they knew, except that there's no people, and it kind of turns out like the Langoliers, where when they get back from the airplane, there's no people, and then the people come, and then everything's okay. It's kind of like that. One thing that I notice here is that this is only about half of the main characters from this series. There are several characters who I noticed are missing here, and I don't know if those characters died or if they still exist in this world somehow, because when this world was recreated, we have a whole bunch of civilians, but they don't seem to recognize these superheroes. Whenever the superheroes finally do show their faces, nobody recognizes them. So it makes me wonder if all of the characters who aren't part of this inner circle, if they all died. You had characters like Aquaman, Red Arrow, Ted Grant, Kaled, the former Dr. Fate, Mr. Terrific. I actually had to Google some of these characters just to figure out if they died in this series off screen or if they showed up again somewhere else. Major Sato, she's another one. A lot of these characters, they just kind of vanish, and it's almost like the creative team just forgot that they were there. I have no idea what happened to most of these characters. Mr. Terrific, he is a character who has shown up again fairly recently in the DC Metal event, but I don't know if he has any memories of the stuff that happened to him when he was on Earth 2. As far as I know, everything in DC's Rebirth continuity is still canonical with everything that happened in the New 52 timeline. And that would mean that the Mr. Terrific in Rebirth, part of the Metal event, that is the same Mr. Terrific that we have here, except that he just kind of fell off the face of the earth in between Volume 1 and 2. He was there some point in Volume 1. He was there when the planet, when the colonies first landed on Brainiac's empty planet, and then he just kind of vanished, and we don't know what happened to him. I have no idea if he disappeared sometime during the Convergence storyline. I haven't read Convergence. I don't know if that's what's happened, except that he was there on the colony tiny planet. Then you have other characters like Aquawoman, Major Sato. Those are characters we're probably never going to see again, and I wish that this book was a little bit more clear on that, because they're talking about how all these characters who live on this world, Lois and I believe Hawkgirl, they're talking about how these characters, they are real. They keep saying, yeah, they're real people. They're not holograms. They're not hallucinations. They are real. So are they recreations of the characters who were living on the Brainiac planet that they were living on? If they're not, then that means that these characters are the only survivors from a planet that had billions of people. There were millions of people who survived the events of World's End, and then I guess all of those people died also, except for Mr. Terrific, who somehow came back in the DC Metal event. But anyway, this feels like it's all happening so that this series and all these characters can get a happy ending. It feels like all this talk about how opening the Pandora's box and trying to recreate their former planet, how that's really dangerous and it could end very badly. All of that so that this can all happen very easily and no problems at all, except the Ultra Humanite almost ruining everything, and then he gets destroyed very easily, and then happy endings for everybody. It seems like they just wanted to kind of put a nice little tidy bow on everything without actually answering any questions, like where are all those characters that I was just talking about? There is so much about this series that I feel like there was so much potential here. I really love the beginning of the Earth 2 series, the James Robinson stuff, the Tom Taylor stuff. I really love all of that. And then everything that came afterwards was just so disappointing. I remember being really excited for the Dan Abnett stuff because he's a writer that I really like, and I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff that he's written before, and this just didn't do anything for me. I don't know if he knew that this series was going to end whenever he first took the job. I don't know if this series ended because of DC Rebirth, or if it ended because people just weren't interested. Because Rebirth was kind of sort of supposed to be a new jumping on point for everybody. If you weren't really a fan of the New 52, you could get into Rebirth and you could like it a little bit more. That's how it was for me. A lot of the stuff from Rebirth that I've read, I liked a lot more than the stuff from the New 52. So I guess maybe they were thinking that Earth 2 was a little too complicated to try and keep around in this new jumping on point. I mean, they had like 50 issues of continuity for these characters in this world, but I guess they felt like that was maybe too much to keep up with. I mean, every creator who's been on this book, they have come in and it's like they didn't read anything that came before. They start introducing new characters like, well, I'm going to be doing a new version of Earth 2. I want to introduce my favorite character from Earth 2. Whatever happened to Hourman? He's another character that I could mention. He was introduced in the first volume, actually, and then Dan Abnett actually used him a little bit, and then he just kind of vanished. I don't know what happened to him. So anyway, this book is okay. It's not really great. It didn't really do anything for me. Overall, I still think if you're interested in Earth 2, you can definitely read the first 4 volumes of the original series, and then I would just say you could just stop right there. Actually, the first 5 volumes, really. I think that those are pretty good, but everything that came after that is disappointing on some level or another. Earth 2 Society, not nearly as bad as World's End, but still not great. I don't think the series ever recovered from that mega event, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on Volume 5, or Volume 4, actually, of Earth 2 Society. I hope that you guys liked this video, and I hope that you enjoyed my 365-day graphic novel review challenge. I will be seeing you guys next year. Have a good one.